All right, here we go. Video number 2 on the bureaucracy. We're going to talk about some good and bad from bureaucracy. So let's start with the good. Start with the good. All right. So what is good about the bureaucracy? First of all, they implement the laws. We talked about that. We saw it with the sandwich example. So that's one of the good things. They also deliver the laws to the people. So if you need something, if you have an issue, this is kind of who gets that to you. And they also regulate and act as regulators. Uh, we think about the environment a lot with that. Um, Environmental regulations are a big part of this. So what's the bad? First of all, it's very large and it can be a bit confusing. Talk about red, we're talking about red tape. When you want something from the bureaucracy, a lot of times you have to go through a lot of steps, and we refer to that as red tape. It's also hard to fire people. Outside of the cabinet, it's pretty hard to get rid of these people. They are, basically there for life. And even if they're doing a bad job, very hard to fire people within the bureaucracy. Um, so the third part is that they can't actually implement the laws. All right, they can only put parts of them in. They're not the ones actually making the law, so it's kind of hard sometimes. So a couple other things here. What are bureaucrats actually? They're actually unelected policymakers. Um, so that plays a pretty important part. You'll often hear people, conspiracy theorists, talk about the deep state. A lot of people would say that's part of the bureaucracy. Usually, the bureaucracy is more representative than Congress or the president. A lot of times you look at Congress, you look at the president, not a ton of diversity there historically, but the bureaucracy pretty much represents the people. So, talking about controlling the bureaucracy, first of all, the president has a couple things they can do, and appointments is the biggest thing. The budget, they can always reorganize the agency. President Trump's done that a lot with like the EPA and things like that. Executive orders as well. This is really what executive orders do. They're there to basically send a message or regulate the bureaucracy. It's kind of interesting because the bureaucracy are the ones that regulate a lot of times, but that's kind of what the executive order does. Congress can deal with the bureaucracy by influencing those appointments. Think about the powers of the Senate. Again, the budget, they can hold hearings, it's congressional oversight, and they can rewrite legislation in order to kind of force the hand of the bureaucracy. One of the biggest parts of this is an iron triangle. And an iron triangle is something we get within a government, and it's really made up of three parts: the congressional committee, which we talked about before, interest groups, which we're going to talk about. You probably have a pretty good idea what they are, and bureaucratic agencies. If these three groups work together, they can accomplish a lot. And sometimes it can be almost nefarious purposes. Um, so you have the executive branch, Congress, and an interest group working together. Interesting cartoon here that kind of comments on the power of the bureaucracy, that red tape we talked about, and the fact that there's too many people working there. One of the biggest questions today is, should the government regulate big business? If you ask Republicans, they would say no. If you ask Democrats, most would say yes. If you talk to the progressive Democrats like Bernie Sanders, that this is one of the big things that he harps on. And here, just another cartoon talking about how, President Obama enacted a lot of regulations on big business. And President Trump's deregulated a lot of those things. All right. Thank you.